Hello and welcome to the Game Line, Wales Online's daily Rugby World Cup debate show. I'm Ben James. I'm joined by Andy Howell today. How you doing, Andy?
Pretty good, thank you, Ben.
Lovely stuff. But before we start, let's introduce the format of this show. As I say, it'll be coming to you every day during the World Cup. We're going to be discussing 3 topics, and then we'll be looking to get your questions throughout as we discuss them. On the agenda today, we've got Aaron Wainwright. He's set to start against Georgia. We've also got some Rugby World Cup predictions, and we have got the breakout players for the tournament in Japan. So let's kick on straight away with it. Andy, Aaron Wainwright set to start against Georgia. What do you make of that?
I'm surprised because I thought Gatland would stick with his Six Nations winning back row, Josh Navidi, Ross Moriarty and Justin Tipridge. But on form, you can't really argue with the decision because Wainwright has been Wales' best player during the summer series of warm-up matches. What's really interesting to me is who is he going to start instead of? Will it be Moriarty? Will it be Navidi or Tipridge?
So we don't just want to hear from Andy, we want to hear from you as well. So we've got a poll running, which is should Aaron Wainwright start against Georgia? So get voting on that, and we'll hear what you have to think at the end of the show. We also want your questions, so please get them in for Andy Howell. You mentioned there that it's going to be interesting to see who Wainwright starts ahead of. Who do you see sort of making way in that back row?
Probably Navidi, because he's had a long-term injury. And he came back. I thought he did well when he came off the bench against England at the in Cardiff. But against Ireland, he didn't go so well in those 2 matches. Missed some tackles and all. Looked a bit rusty, if anything. So I think there's a possibility Wainwright could start at 6. Leaving out Moriarty, who's the only specialist number they've got, would be a massive call, actually. So I think Moriarty, though he's been quiet, to me, he's a big game player, and it would be a gamble leaving him out. Well, I think Tipridge is such a force with his organisation, his line-out work, and his skill, his ability to read a game. I don't see how they could leave him out.
I suppose delving into sort of rugby cliches, first game is against Georgia. Georgia have a big scrum. You probably want a specialist number 8 at the back of that, because if the scrum does start going backwards on roller skates, as it has in the summer, you need a number 8 who knows how to pick up at the base, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And Moriarty supplies that. Though Navidi, in fairness, can do a half decent job in that position. But you're going to need some bulk against Georgia, and Moriarty has got extra bulk. So I'd be inclined to pick him myself, and with Tipridge on the open side and Wainwright at 6.
So we're focusing sort of on who Wainwright's going to sort of overtake, but it's probably worth sort of stepping back a second and just looking at the meteoric rise that Aaron Wainwright's had in the sort of last 2 years. You know, we all know the story. Former Cardiff City midfielder in the under-16s, went to rugby quite late. You tell the story about how you sort of met him at the Dragons that one day, didn't you, in training? And
yeah, 2 summers ago, there were 3 guys on the side of training at the Dragons, unable to train because of injuries. One was a guy called Max Williams. Another was our Ross Robson, outside half. And the other was Aaron Wainwright. Bernard Jackman was their coach at the time. Suggested I go across and speak to Max Williams, saying he was going to be a star of the future. So I didn't know who Aaron Wainwright was at the time. I introduced myself to him. I said, what's your name? He said, Aaron Wainwright. I said, what position do you play? He said, back row. And as it turned out, Bernard Jackman got it wrong when he pointed to the big star of the future, though there is time for the other 2 boys. That Wainwright has turned out to be the star. He never played for the Dragons at that time, rather than Max Williams.
Well, there you go. If you are a young and upcoming rugby player, you want to make sure that you end up bumping into Andy Howell somewhere, and you'll be playing for Wales at the next World Cup. We'll move on to the next topic, which is look at the World Cup predictions. Obviously, we've recorded a podcast this morning, a shameless plug. If you're not subscribed to the Welsh Rugby Podcast on iTunes or a provider, make sure that you do. We look through the pool stages. Let's look at sort of the knockout stages. But before we do that, just a reminder, if you are tuning in, you're watching the Game Line. This is Wales Online's daily Facebook Live broadcast, and we want your questions in for Andy Howell, so make sure you do send them in below. But as I say, let's look at the World Cup predictions. We know what the pool stage is going to look like because you predicted this morning. Let's look at the knockout stages.
Yeah, I'm seeing quarterfinalists being England, Argentina, Ireland, Japan, with Scotland going out, Wales sneaking through, Australia, and New Zealand and South Africa. So it depends, who finished top of what group. Great importance to me is who finishes top of the South Africa New Zealand group, because actually the runner-up in our group might have an easier path to the final when you look at the way look at the draw.
Okay, so then from those 8, let's narrow it down to 4.
Oh, put me on the spot, Ben? England, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia.
Okay, I noticed that Wales wasn't among those teams there. So you think quarterfinal?
I think they're scraping the quarterfinals. I'm a bit concerned because I don't think Wales have been that good in the warm-up matches. The attack has been blunt. I think they're going to have to score points and tries to get to reach the latter stages of the World Cup. And I'm worried about that match against Fiji because irrespective of what's already happened in the group, that's a winner-take-all match. And Wales need to strangle Fiji up front. And the Welsh pack, though, has been struggling a bit. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Talk about Wales not scraping past Fiji there. Got a question here from Stuart Bowie Phillips. Will Wales beat Australia? That's the big one, isn't it?
I don't think it is a big game. The big game in the group is Fiji because the 2 teams go through. So I think it's a bit of irrelevance. I think that Australia will win our match because I think they will score some tries against us. And I don't know if Wales got the firepower to hit them back with tries ourselves. So I got a feeling Wales are going to come off second best in that game. Okay,
so Wales crash out in the quarterfinals. That's probably not going to go down too well in the comments below. Let's move on to the semi-finals. How do you see them faring?
I predict the final, a repeat of the group match between South Africa and New Zealand. I think that South Africa, if they play England in the semi-final, South Africa can beat England. They tend to do a bit of a number on England, and whereas New Zealand would be in the other half of the draw and would potentially have maybe a slightly easier semi-final against Australia. I know Australia beat them recently, but the form and the record suggests New Zealand have got it over Australia. There we
go. Your questions are absolutely flying at the minute. We got one from Matt Davis, who will be Wales's top try scorer at the World Cup. That's a tough question for you, isn't it?
Because they're not scoring tries. Josh Adams.
Josh Adams, okay. Another here from Shane Johnson. Quite a simple question. Bigger or Patchell?
Bigger because Patchell hasn't played enough because of injuries.
Don't see them sort of revert into that dynamic they had in the Six Nations where the sort of the Gareth Hanscom, Reece Patchell-esque fly half, play 60, Bigger comes on?
I think it might work better the other way in this case because Wales might be chasing games a bit towards the end and might need to score some more points rather than closing them out.
You're in a very pessimistic mood today, aren't you?
I'm a realist.
I think did we get to the end of the predictions, or have you said your final yet?
Yeah, you said the final. South Africa to beat New Zealand in the final.
There we go. Perfect time to move on then. We got one more section. We're going to look at breakout players at the World Cup now. Well, we probably mentioned one in the shape of Aaron Wainwright.
Absolutely.
I believe you've got a few more there written down on your piece of paper.
Yeah. Australia winger, Marika Karabiti, is a heck of a player.
He's
dynamite. And he's a good player. Tom Curry, England, very good player as well. And then Fiji got a real danger man in their back row. Wales beware. Penseli Yato, he's been ripping up in France with Clermont, and he could be one of the standout players of the World Cup.
Obviously, you mentioned Wainwright, but any other sort of maybe breakout players from a Welsh perspective?
Josh Adams. If he's top side, Josh Adams, he's been a revelation really in the Test arena. He's got pace, he's got great footwork, and he's got excellent rugby brain.
I suppose looking back when the squad was announced, I suppose there was 2 bolters in that training squad. Obviously, Owen Lane didn't make the final cut. What about Rhys Carré?
What'd be interesting with Carré is if Wales pick him on a bench for matches. I don't think he's going to start matches. Will they decide to have him on the bench as a player who could potentially come on and cause some damage with his ball carrying, which is the strength of his game?
So another concern there is you named about 3 players, and 2 of those are in the same pool as Wales, aren't they? So it's...
Yeah, I could name 3 Australians, mind, because Isaac Roda is a really good player, block forward, and that back row they've unearthed who is Fijian, actually. Issa Nasserini, he's added bulk and he's added ball carrying that Australia pack. He's really beefed it up.
Is that maybe a bit of a concern that sort of for Wales or conversely for Australia and Fiji, that there's a lot of sort of youth in those other teams that we're facing? Maybe it's a concern for us, or maybe it's a concern for them that...
Well, Wales got a more established team. Australia been rebuilding, if you like, and Fiji always unearth young players, don't they, who then get picked off by clubs. So no, they'll be concerned about Wales if Wales get their game right and can play on the edge and with their Welsh physicality. But I think Australia coach Michael Cheika has moved to counter that by beefing up their pack and using some different tactics in their backs with Karevi, using him on a Warren Ball type game.
Just a reminder, if you are watching, this is the game line. Please carry on getting your questions in for Andy Howell. No matter how big, no matter how small, I'm sure he'll endeavour to answer them all. As I say, that one flashes up on my screen like magic. This is from Matthew Fletcher. Do you think that Wales are holding back different attack plays? Now, you know I've got an opinion on this, but I'll let you take it first.
No, because Wales have never had that many different attack plays. It's been a basic tactic, which Warren Gatland has had throughout his coaching career, never mind where he's coached, which is a big centre carrying the ball up and trying to wave teams down, like going through phase after phase. The only variation they use sometimes is playing for the forwards, which they did to beat England in the Six Nations, as you expertly analysed, when just England didn't commit enough numbers to break down and Wales went through it.
Matthew, you opened a bit of a can of worms here, because this man right to my right, he sort of gets me a bit riled up about this one. I think they are holding back attack plays. I really do. I think you look at the Six Nations, they had picks and goes, they had variations around the fringes. You had a lot of back three players coming in off the scrum half. Josh Adams, Liam Williams were sort of picking lines around forwards. George North was picking and going. Out in the backs, maybe not as much, but we're sort of seeing a bit more depth. Wales know that they don't have the power runners, so they have to sort of go deep and wide very quickly to get to the strike runners. I think Rob Howley's holding something back. I really do.
But Wales got the skill to get the ball quick and wide.
Cast your mind back to Argentina. Some of the tries they scored there it wasn't about getting go forward ball. It was about getting really good execution on decent ball and letting the hands do the work. And I think they've shown that they can do it. And I think they'll be looking to show that they can do it again in Japan.
Some of the personnel over there was different, though.
Some of it was, but I think it's a sort of a reoccurring part of Warren Gatland's last sort of World Cup build-up. The last 4 years. This is what he's been building. Everyone who comes in that squad has to buy into that way of thinking. That's just basics, isn't it? International coaching. Everyone who comes into a squad has to buy into the ethos of that squad, and I think that's what he's been building fairly quietly.
But they have suffered a huge blow, though, losing Garth Anscombe.
I'll admit that one.
You look at their try count over the last couple of years. In 2018, even though Wales finished second in the Six Nations, only Italy had a worse try count than Wales of the Rugby Championship and the Six Nations teams.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I mean, we've got another question. This is from Matt Summers. I can't really read that. It seems to have sort of gone off my screen. Let's try that again. Everyone is excited about Japan. I think they will struggle to get out of their group. Do you agree?
Does he mean Wales or Japan?
No, he means Japan. Everyone's excited about Japan, the team, not Japan, the tournament and the country.
I think they're capable of causing an upset. I think they will beat Scotland, and wouldn't surprise me if they can get enough ball if they don't give Ireland the area up as well. Ireland are chokers at the World Cup, as we know, historically. And Japan, don't forget, did beat South Africa at the last World Cup. Pacific Nations champions, and they got top coaches, and the conditions will be conducive to them. It's going to be sweltering over there. The humidity, we've got to take that into account, how it's going to affect matches, and they're going to be firing, they're going to be throwing everything at it.
Then again, Matt could mean Wales. So let's take it that way as well. Will Wales get their group?
I think they'll scrape out the group. I think they'll just beat Fiji. I think they'll lose to Australia, and I think we'll just about scrape past against Fiji. They edged us out in Nantes in 2007. Huge upset. Although Wales are much better now than then, I think this Fiji team is better as well. So I think that could be a heck of a match.
Talked about attack then. We've got a comment here from Christopher Thomas. We should have replaced Howley a long time ago. Do you agree?
Well, Wales have had a winning record.
That's true.
They won 4 Six Nations titles, and Gatland and Howley reached a World Cup semi-final.
Only a month ago, we won a winning run of 14 games, weren't we?
So you couldn't replace him a few months before the World Cup. I thought they should have replaced him in 2016 when his contract was up. Him and Robin McBride, I thought it was time for a change, freshen things up.
Has the last 2 years not vindicated keeping him on, though? The fact that we won a Grand Slam towards the World Cup and the 14-match winning run?
Yeah, it does. Certainly, it was the right decision, yeah.
Okay, there we go. I think we'll leave that there. Let's get your poll results. We've had them in. The question was, should Aaron Wainwright start against Georgia? 3 answers. 46.2% of you say definitely, 35.9% say maybe, and 17.9% say no. So it's a pretty good result there for young Aaron.
Yeah, but doesn't that pull the show compared to the Welsh back row is? And
That's a very good point.
And now people are split.
Indeed, it does. Indeed, they are split. But I don't think Warren Gatland, well, he might be, but clearly not that much. I think that's everything now for today's Facebook show. This has been the Gain Line that you've been watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with another show. But until then, you can follow all the latest news on Wales Online.